You ever stop and think, how did we figure out what to eat? I mean, really figure it out. What's food and what's poison? Ancient legends say one man answered those questions for all of us. We're talking about Shennong, the divine farmer. And his story? Well, it's the story of how our world, our civilization, really began.
To really get why Shennong is such a huge deal, we've got to go back. I mean, way back. Picture a world with no farms, no grocery stores, no guarantee you're going to eat tomorrow. Your entire life, every single day, is about finding food. It's a life lived right on the edge, a world of just constant, gnawing uncertainty. I mean, just think about the daily grind. You're not just worried about finding food. You're worried about becoming food for some wild beast. Sickness? It could sweep through your camp with zero explanation, zero cure. And always, there's that fear in the back of your mind, famine. What if the hunt fails? What if the plants aren't there? It was a life where you were not in control. The world was. So, into all that chaos, a hero steps forward. At least, that's what the legends tell us. Someone who looked at this brutal, uncertain world and said, no, we can do better. He decided to face these challenges head-on, not just for himself, but for everyone. His name was Shennong, and his journey, well, it was about to change everything. But let's start with the most basic problem, right? You're surrounded by plants. How do you know which ones you can eat? Seriously, how? Which berry is lunch, and which one is, well, the end of you? For ages, we learned the hard way, through trial and, fatal error. But Shennong, he decided to take that risk so no one else would have to. And this is where the legend gets truly wild. There's this ancient line that says, in a single day, he was poisoned 70 times. Can you even imagine? The story goes that he tasted hundreds upon hundreds of plants, using his own body as a living laboratory. He was sorting it all out. Food over here, poison over there. And, wait a second, medicine right here. This wasn't just courage. It was an unbelievable act of self-sacrifice. So what was the result of all this insane personal risk? It's this incredible book, or at least the knowledge that would become this book, the Shennong Ben Cao Jing. It's basically the first ever Chinese guide to medicine, with 365 different remedies. And that's the key, right? While looking for food, he accidentally started an entire field of science. He didn't just give us agriculture, he gave us medicine. Okay, so knowing which grains to eat is one thing, but that's only half the problem, isn't it? How do you grow enough for everybody? This is where Shennong, the innovator, the engineer, comes in. This old quote says it all. He took wood and created the very first farming tools, the plow. He wasn't just a guy who knew his plants, he was an inventor. And that one simple tool, it set off a chain reaction, a total domino effect. Suddenly you've got the plow. That means you can grow a ton of grain, like millet, which means you've got a stable food supply. For the very first time, people don't have to be nomads. They can stay in one place. And when you stay in one place, populations boom. Towns form. Society gets, well, complicated. It's literally the birth of civilization, and it all started with a simple tool made from wood. So you can see this wasn't just about changing what was for dinner. This was a total rewrite of what it meant to be human. Agriculture didn't just change the world. It created a new one. Now, if you're thinking, okay, this is a great story, but it's just a myth, well, archaeology has something to say about that. At a site in China called Xishan, they found pits full of stored millet, over 100,000 tons of it, and it's 8,000 years old. That's not a group of people just scraping by. That is a massive surplus. It's physical proof that this farming revolution, the one Shennong's story talks about, actually happened on a huge scale. And of course, when you change how you live, you change how society works. Shennong is also said to have set up this new social structure, summed up by the phrase, men plow, women weave. It's a division of labor, right? Farming and textiles. And this simple idea became the bedrock, the social and economic model for a huge part of the world for thousands and thousands of years. So this brings us to the big question, right? Who was Shennong? Was he one incredible, real person, a god, or is something else going on with this story? It's a debate that's been going on for a long, long time. Basically, it boils down to two main ideas. On the one hand, maybe Shennong was a single, amazing person whose achievements were so great he became a legend, a god. But on the other hand, there's this term, Shennong Shi. That little word at the end, Shi, can mean a clan or a family, but it can also mean an entire age, kind of like we say the Stone Age. So maybe Shennong Shi isn't a person at all, but a name for the whole era when we were first figuring out farming, the age of the divine farmer. But here's where the story takes a really interesting turn, because the legend of Shenlong didn't just stay in one place. It traveled. And when it got to Vietnam, it evolved into something totally new, something incredibly important. See, in Vietnam, Shennong isn't just some clever inventor god. He's something much, much bigger. He's considered the great ancestor. We're talking about their foundational histories, tracing a direct family line from Shennong down through generations to the very first kings of the Vietnamese people. This line includes mythical figures like the Dragon King, Lac Long Quan, and the Hung Kings. So for Vietnam, he's not just a culture hero, he is, quite literally, the father of their nation. And you can actually see this difference in how he's portrayed. In a lot of Chinese art, Shennong is this older, wise, powerful, emperor-like figure. But in Vietnam, he's often shown as a young boy riding a water buffalo. Now that's not random. Think about it. What's at the absolute heart of traditional Vietnamese farming? Wet rice paddies and the water buffalo. It's a perfect example of how the legend was adapted to fit a new culture, a new landscape. So that's the key difference right there. In China, he's the great innovator, the one who brought the gifts of farming and medicine. In Vietnam, he's the great ancestor, the one from whom the entire nation descends. It's the same legend, the same name, but he's playing two totally different foundational roles for two different national stories. So in the end, it doesn't really matter if he was one man, a myth, or the name for a whole age. His legacy is all around us. It really makes you think, doesn't it? The food on your plate, the herbs in your medicine, how much of our modern world, how much of our very survival was built on the shoulders of this one ancient story, the story of the divine farmer.